Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 Pro and compare it against the iPhone 13 mini and see which specific phone you should go and pick up in 2023. Now, both these phones are very different. I don't think anybody should be buying the 13 mini over the 13 Pro, but let's go and see how they hold up. If you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off side by side, the iPhone 13 mini came out in 2021, actually. I was about to say 2023. This was a pretty interesting phone that that Apple made. I think it was pretty interesting. It was the last mini phone that we ever got from Apple, and I really do feel like at the end of the day, Apple could have done a little bit of a better job. Like, this wasn't the most perfect phone of all time, but they still did a decent job, and I think that's a pretty cool thing Apple did. It had a 5.8-inch almost display on the front, and I think it looked pretty nice. Again, I think it was like 5.7 inches, but it was a Super Retina XDR OLED display, and it looked pretty good. The notch up top wasn't that big of a deal. You had a little bit of bezel around it, but overall, I think Apple did a decent job, and it still looks pretty good at the end of the day. Now, on the iPhone 13 mini, or on the iPhone 13 Pro, on the other hand, we had a bigger 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, and this was a pretty good panel. It was 120 Hz, the first time that we got a 120 Hz ProMotion display on our iPhone, and it's a big difference. 120 Hz is here to stay. It's probably going to go even higher than that, but this was a really nice touch that Apple threw in here, and I'm still a massive fan of them bringing that type of feature here. Still the same size notch, kind of as a 13 mini, a little bit of bezel around the whole entire display, but it looks beautiful, and like I said, I'm a really big fan of the way this whole entire phone kind of holds up. Now, in terms of the rest of the body, you can kind of see that between both phones, you are getting this flat side, which looks beautiful, but also like this reflective material on the iPhone 13 Pro. But on the iPhone 13 mini, you're getting that standard type of feeling. I think both of them look great. I think both of them have their features. But I do think something like the 13 mini is still good. It's a smaller phone, but I think the 13 Pro is definitely the better feeling one. Lightning ports at the bottom. And on the back of both these phones, you can also see that both of them have a little different styling to them. The iPhone 13 Pro has that triple camera setup. The 13 mini has a dual camera setup. The 13 Pro also has that frosted glass back, which I think looks really nice, where the 13 mini has that standard glass back. Both of them have their pros, both of them have their features. But I definitely do think a phone like the 13 Pro is definitely the better feeling one. I mean, there's like no competition here. Both of them have that MagSafe capability on the back, and I think this is the blue color of both these devices. So it's interesting that we have such a different styling for the blue colors between both. Wireless charging on both, IP certification on both as well. And like I said, definitely lots of overlap, but there's really no competition here. The 13 Pro is quite clearly, at least in my opinion, the way better one in pretty much every single area here. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the software updates, this is where both phones are probably going to be exactly the same. So the 13 Pro, again, is the phone that's more expensive, but even with the cheaper 13 mini, it's cheaper by a couple $100. This is going to be the phone that's going to probably last just as long as the 13 Pro. That's what happens every single year. This is really nothing you have to worry about for the next couple of years, to be honest. But probably 4 years from now, you're going to see that the 13 mini and the 13 Pro are both probably discontinued with software. And that's just kind of what happens when you're getting both these devices. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there too. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The 13 mini has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 13 Pro has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one's a faster phone between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, so let's get into it. Their app stores, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 13 Pro definitely the faster one there. 13 mini a little bit slower, scrolling through. And you can even tell here like the 120 Hz on the iPhone 13 Pro, but the 13 mini is still doing a really good job there. I will pretty much already go and submit to these third-party applications that we have on both. So let's get into it. Let's do stack, 3, 2, 1. And I guess the 13 Pro is faster there. The 13 mini a little bit behind. Of course, we get into these pop-ups. Hopping out of here. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. And the 13 mini was actually faster there, surprisingly. In terms of gameplay, it's probably going to be roughly the same, but surprisingly, the 13 mini opened that one up faster. Snake first blocks, 3, 2, 1. And kind of the same thing. There really wasn't that big of a difference here either. Hopping out of these two. So I'm going to into Netflix, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro was the faster one there. Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. kind of the same thing, but this one had a different pop-up. Dropbox 3, 2, 1. Okay, 13 Pro was a faster one there. Temple Run 2, 3, 2. I don't know where Temple Run 2 is on this phone. There we go. 3, 2, 1. And you can see, I think the 13 Pro was slightly faster, but it was still very, very much the same. But you can definitely see, I think the 13 Pro was the faster one there, hopping out of these two. Let's go and try something like, you know what, that kind of covers it up. I think we've covered up a majority of the applications between both. I don't know if there's one that's significantly faster here, but I think the 13 Pro is going to be consistently the faster one more times than not. On top of that, this one has more RAM too, so that's probably one of the bigger things to keep in mind here, that you're going to be getting more RAM on a device like this, which in turn means that you could be getting better, I guess, more applications being held up in the background and just better speed overall. So that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the camera side of things, I've always felt like between both these devices, camera quality is always going to be better it's going to be better on the Pros, but it's still kind of interesting that on a phone like the 13 mini, we're still getting a decent type of, camera. So on the back, on the iPhone 13 mini, wide and ultra-wide camera, the 13 Pro, wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens. So very nice that we have that type of capability between both. We're getting 4K at 60 on the front and the back, so we're getting the same exact video resolutions that we can film in between both. So I think that's a really cool thing. And you are getting that LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 13 mini, which is actually really nice. Now in the 13 Pro has a LiDAR sensor, not the 13 mini. So I'm like losing my memory. So with the 13 mini, we're getting that ultra-wide sensor, which is really nice. And it's an overall still a very solid camera. I like the iPhone 13, I like the 13 mini a lot, but I also like the iPhone 13 Pro a lot too. I like this camera more, but this thing you are getting video mode, cinematic mode, slow mode, time lapse. You're still getting a lot of options here, portrait mode. It's still a very good quality camera. I've talked about this camera a lot throughout the last couple of years, and I'm surprised how good of a camera this thing is, and it's small body. I think that's a really nice thing that the 13 mini kind of has going for it. And again, for such a small body, it's a really, really nice touch. With the 13 Pro, this thing is also a very good camera. I like this camera a lot, and that's one of the cooler things going on with this type of phone. It's a very, very solid camera. It's still easily one of the better cameras that you can buy, which is honestly one of my favorite things going for it. Now with the 13 Pro, like I said, you're getting photo mode, video mode, cinematic mode. You're still getting portrait mode, which is nice. Lots and lots of cool features going on with this device too, which is really cool. And it's really good. It's a really, really solid phone that I like a lot. It's definitely not perfect like I've mentioned before, but I do think Apple's done a really good job with this type of camera. And at the end of the day, it is better than the iPhone 13 mini. You're getting that 0.5x zoom, which is really nice. And it's a very solid phone at the end of the day. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll definitely tell you is there's really no reason where the 13 Pro is a worse phone than the 13 mini. In almost every single area, I would just say every area, the 13 Pro is a better phone. The only area maybe it's not is the price tag. It's a little bit more expensive in the used market than the 13 mini, but you can probably buy a used iPhone 13 Pro for probably, what is this, like $600? You're still looking at about $750 to $800 for this type of phone, but very soon once the 15s come out, it's going to be less than $600. This is probably going to be a very, very good deal in the next coming months. Now with the 13 mini, I think this phone is cheaper. It's good if you want to buy it in the used market. It probably would not be the first phone I'd recommend people to buy, but it wouldn't be the last. And this is a very good phone for the price. Not for the price, but it's a very good phone overall. And I'm a big fan of the way this phone's been holding up for the last couple of years so far. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video.